Hi everyone, this is Gunjan from the Startup Operator podcast, and welcome to the weekly roundup, where we take you through the biggest headlines from the startup ecosystem from the week that was. Hi, joining me today we have Roshan Cariappa. He had a very busy time in the Bharat with the podcast, but glad you could make it, Roshan, and we're glad we could start on time.
Made it just about in time, yeah. I think the
Hi
podcasts
everyone.
are like I hear a repetition.
Yeah,
Thiru, can you edit that out? Yeah.
your podcast was casting on the TV.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Bharat Varta Weekly is another podcast that I do on Sundays, and there's barely enough time to get on this one. But glad to make it, and eventful week. Plenty of discussion on the Paytm stock, right? It's down 40%. The issue price was around 2,150. It's now trading at 960 rupees, which is really bad. And just in 2 months of listing, and it's expected to slide further, right? I mean, most people think the valuation has come down from 16 billion to around 7 to 8 billion right now. And I think it's just a matter of time before I think somebody will scoop it up, right? Because I do believe that as a national brand with 100 million plus users, I think it's extremely valuable. The only question is when and who, right? And at what price. I think the potential contenders could be Tata, right? Tata has acquired Big Basket, 1mg, CureFit in recent months, and then I have personally, I have my money on Reliance, right? Reliance also has made a bunch of these value acquisitions, I would say, right? Whether it's Haptic, Savan, Urban Ladder, or recently even Dunzo. I think it's a good business that great execution can really turn around and save, right? So yeah, I mean, hopefully Paytm will be back and do really well in the coming days. We also have the union budget coming up in about a week's time, right? And everyone's like keenly watching this. One thing that I think from a startup perspective, everyone would ask for is obviously to ease the regulatory control and stuff, and also, I mean, help with credit, because I think demand has not really come back to pre-pandemic levels yet. And while some industries have done really well in the pandemic, a lot of the industries, especially on the services side, MSMEs, all of these people are still facing a crash crunch. And I suppose the emergency credit line guarantee scheme will help, right? I mean, I think continuing on that will be helpful. There was also a very interesting interview of the Dolo 650 guys, right, on Money Control. And it was very interesting reading about their story and stuff. So it's a company called Microlabs Limited that manufactures it, for those who are interested. Yeah, I mean, they're not listed, so I'm sorry you can't invest in them yet, right? And they have no plans of IPO as well. That's a bummer, but yeah, that's been my week so far.
Some of the things which you mentioned, right, on the market valuations and the whole value acquisitions which Reliance has made. We'll be diving a bit deeper into these topics in the roundup. But let's start talking about the comment which Rajiv Mishra made, who's the CEO of SoftBank's Vision Fund. In 2021, we really saw how valuations of companies soared, right? And according to a report by CB Insights, over $600 billion was invested, which is like double of what was in 2020, in the year 2020. More than 900 startups are valued at over $1 billion, right? But if you look at how the stock market has been performing in the last week, I think there is a lot of market correction going on. And this phenomenon has, some investors really worried. If you look at Zomato, for instance, that came under tremendous selling pressures on Friday, and I think stock prices declined by close to 7%, right, and hit a low of 116.4 rupees, and this is like a 30% drop from its 52-week high, right? There was a lot of buzz when the company went IPO. And even if you look at NASDAQ, right, many startups are getting listed in NASDAQ, and that also is going through a correction of, I would say, close to 10%. If you look at the entire funding landscape, private companies are valued close to 20 times their revenue. But as soon as these companies are going public, valuation comes down to maybe 12 times the revenue, right? And even what Sequoia and other companies are doing, the average check size has, of course, been tremendous. And I personally feel that conversations need to slowly, focus more on hard numbers such as, actual revenue metrics and, the product unit economics and of course the overall savings. But do you feel that we'll be seeing more corrections in the market anytime soon?
So first of all, it's not cause for alarm and panic, right? I mean, it's definitely good to be cautious. But see, just to put things in perspective, the S&P index in the US is down about 7%, and people are losing their, shit about it. But it's almost more than 2 times since 2020, right? So the 7% is a correction. And, I mean, I do believe that at least for India, I mean, the correction might happen sideways. It won't correct like drastically, right, by over 10% and so on. I did another podcast with Nimish Joshi and Rajiv Mantri earlier on the same thing. But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty bad for some of the startups, right? DoorDash is down about 50% since November. Grab is down 65%. Peloton is down 80%, right? And it was, I mean, while these are like, egregiously bad, I mean, if you look at some of the value multiples that some of these companies were getting, right? I mean, it's insane, right? Bill.com was 43x, Cloudflare 33x, Datadog 61x, Zoom was at its peak 86x, right? I mean, so these kind of, obviously these kind of value multiples are not sustainable, and obviously it's going to temper out at some point of time and ease out, right? And there was also a lot of liquidity in the market, right? And this is again something that's unsustainable, right? The Fed is going to have to do something about the the inflation rates, right? The inflation is around 7% in the US, which is remarkably high. And so they're going to have to raise their interest rates. And when they do that, if and when they do that, I mean, these will be priced in the markets also. I think Shailendra Singh of Sequoia had an interesting comment on this, right? So he said market sentiment changes faster than startups can change operations, cost structures, or monetization levers. Looking forward to a much needed correction in startup funding environment. Thankfully, conversations are back to focusing on revenues, product, unit economics, and saving dollars. I think it's gold, right? I mean, it's something that I think all startup founders should be aware of, because I think all these valuations, pricing, all of that is externalities, right? You can't really control this. But what you can control is your focus on the business, your focus on customers, right? And that is really, really important. Yes, I mean, make use of the fact that there's money in the markets, and if you have to raise a round, I mean, go ahead and do that. But still, I think the end goal in terms of being super relevant to your customers and users, and really focusing on sustainable business metrics is the way forward.
Just to insert one point, right? Recently, Elon Musk had put out a tweet on this whole market valuations, and he said, "See, macroeconomic trends really can't be predicted, and anytime soon, if we go by history, what history has shown, very soon we'll be having another recession-like scenario, and it really might become difficult for these companies which are exorbitantly valued in the market to actually, you know, float through that and actually sustain their business."
No, it's tough. I mean, there's that old saying, right? I mean, when the tide recedes, you'll know who is swimming with their pants on, right? And yeah, I mean, it's tough, but I won't call it. Again, I mean, there's no reason to panic or be alarmed as such. This is a correction, and it's a long, long due correction, right? We've had a bull run for almost a couple of years now. So, and I still feel the correction will be sideways. Like some industries will correct, some industries will maintain the momentum and so on, right? So yeah.
Right. In one of, I think it was around 28th of December, when there was an interview with N. Chandrasekaran, who is the Tata Sons chairman. He commented that Tata Group's future growth strategy will primarily be based on four themes, which are digital, new energy, supply chain resilience, and health. Right. And to that front, Tata has really been doubling down on its digital transformation strategies. Most recently, Tata Digital Limited has floated a wholly owned subsidiary called Tata Payments that will take over all payment related assets from the Tata Group. This move is, seen by many as a precursor of the group entering the digital payments business in a big way, right? And this will be head-on competition for firms like Reliance and Adani Group and the likes of that. The Tata FinTech is expected to function as a financial marketplace, which will offer multiple financial products and a new retail payments gateway towards consumers under a single roof. And of course, even Amazon will be which is already in turmoil with the Indian government. They'll be facing some really stiff competition soon. What do you make of this?
No, so payments is the tip of the spear for any business, right? And it's especially integral to e-commerce. And we've seen how Flipkart has done phenomenally well with its PhonePe acquisition in 2016, 2017, I think, right? And the Tata Group has also been actively pursuing a license for its consumer app, super app, Tata New, right? And yeah, I mean, right now the app is being pilot tested with the Tata Group's 200,000 plus employee base itself, right? Basically connecting the Tata universe of brands, right? And offer everything from grocery to electronics to finance solutions, etc., etc. And yeah, I mean, this payment thing will probably be, a mix of Tata Capital, Tata Consultancy Services coming together with some external help to build this out, right? Yeah, this new license or the new umbrella entities license that the Tata Group has been applying for, and also Reliance also, I think, is basically an alternate to NPCI, or the National Payments Corporation of India, which operates UPI and IMPS and corners about 60% of the payments, right? And I think, even from a government perspective, the idea is to like basically de-risk, this and have other private players participate in building out payment systems and so on. And not just anyone, right? I mean, obviously, I mean, the government has put in sufficient guardrails also. It can only be owned by Indian residents, right? And also it requires a certain amount of capital to be in reserve credit at all times, right? I think around 300 crores or something. The important aspect also is the whole personal data protection bill, which is again under review at this point of time in the Joint Parliamentary Committee, and that is going to play an important point also, because it'll also enforce some restrictions, laws, and guidelines on how the consumer data can be used, which is, I think, a very important thing, right? Because so far NPCI is a non-profit, but when private players do come in, I mean, I think there should be some care and consideration to shown on that regard. So yeah, I mean, it's expected, right? I mean, we've seen other payment providers, for example, move on to financial services, and then some, and enabling merchants and so on. So I think Tata will do the same thing.
Right. All right. So this is probably the largest headline from the week, where Microsoft is in the process of buying Activision Blizzard for a whopping $68.7 billion. And with this acquisition, Microsoft will become the third largest video game company in the world in terms of pure revenue. Activision is known for making some of the more popular titles, which includes Call of Duty and Candy Crush. And Microsoft has also heavily been betting on the gaming space. In 2020, they acquired Bethesda, who are the creators of Fallout and Elder Scrolls series of games. Now, many have been terming this as a move towards metaverse, right? But the way I see it, it's basically like what any large tech companies are doing, right? They are either trying to absorb all the things that people are doing or things people are watching. But more of it, the way I see it in this entire metaverse space, I think the only companies that have created their entire walled ecosystems are the ones that will strive. So what do you think? Is this going to be like a Black Mirror episode in real world, or is this just going to be the norm of business?
I'm trying to think of the last episode where you didn't mention the metaverse.
Metaverse is
half a dozen
happening,
times. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, Microsoft has been really good with acquisitions, right? So they acquired LinkedIn for 26 billion and GitHub for about 7.5 billion. Satya Nadella is, of course, I think the world's best CEO at this point of time, arguably, right? Since he took over in 2014, the Microsoft stock has gone up like 7 times, right? It's insane. I think the entire, digital interaction and everything is going to get gamified, man. And this metaverse is the next reality that we're going to exist in, right? I mean, I spoke to this founder of Fan Anywhere, which is basically helping celebrities connect with their fans in the metaverse, right, and helping them monetize certain transactions and so on. So I think it's something where we have to pay serious attention to it. People are spending more and more time online, and some of the social credibility, or I think most of the social credibility, is moving online, right? I mean, it's no longer that you can show off your house and car in the real world. I mean, you will have to show off something else in the metaverse as well, right? And I think this whole thing is going to improve orders of magnitude when virtual reality really kicks in, right? The Oculus rig is, I think, about 30 or 40K in India at this point of time. Once it comes down to a good consumer price of, I don't know, maybe a couple of grand or something, which is a possibility, right? I mean, over the next 3-4 years, if that happens, I mean, you will see this explode like never before. And I think this acquisition is really geared towards that. I mean, it's geared towards the upcoming reality of the world.
Yep. I mean, of course, we have a difference with Roshan, but we'll see. This will just become a new way of life. So then I think the round will be more and more about metaverse news. Okay, we have spoken about Exotel a couple of times in our roundup. Even they raised funding recently, but this company has been around in the market for 10 years, right? And but the first funding round was in 2012, and since then the company was almost silent in the market, right? In the investor market. And then after 8 years, they raised another round of $100 million, which was 300 times the valuation of the first round. And in that period, they also made 2 acquisitions. In terms of revenue, also in the past 18 months, they have 4x the revenue to $55 million, and valuation right now is close to 400 million. And a very interesting note on this is Ola, which is one of Exotel's biggest customers. Exotel makes more money per ride than Ola does, right? So it's an amazing growth story, great revenue models. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's my favorite story of the week, and I think the Money Control team deserves a lot of kudos for putting these stories together. Really fantastic work. See, cloud telephony is a kind of a commoditized market at this point of time. It's 10 or 15 years in the making, right? These SMSs, number masking, all of that is like very, very commoditized, right? We had bunch of players in this market: Ozone Tel, Nolarity, and all of these. And it was really a race to the bottom. And to survive in this kind of an environment really, really takes a lot of guts and perseverance and innovation, right? The key thing that Exotel has done that others have failed is that they've built value over these things, right? So they've built a full-fledged customer engagement platform right now. And that includes their acquisition of Ameo, which is a contact center solution, and Cogno, which is in the conversational AI space. So between Ameo, Cogno, and the Exotel solution, there's a full-fledged solution for enterprises on the customer interaction and engagement side of things, right? And slowly they will cover other parts of customer experience as well. It's been a tough journey for the founding team, man. I mean, they lost one or more of their co-founders on the journey along the way, right? And they laid off a bunch of people during the pandemic. Business literally went to zero when when lockdowns were announced, and it was March, April time, right? It's heartening to see them rebound. And I think the other differentiation also is the fact that they've started focusing on large enterprises, right? They moved on from targeting funded startups like Ola and Swiggy, and also adding large enterprises like HDFC and ICICI. And we've seen the pandemic accelerate cloud adoption among these enterprises. So it's definitely they've come out of this very, very tough time really strong and robust and anti-fragile, right? So Shiv Kumar Ganeshan is the founder, and he had said that they'll probably focus on expanding to emerging markets like Southeast Asia and Middle East and so on. So yeah, I mean, wish them all the best. And it's truly a wonderful story, because it's heartening to see someone triumph the odds, right? It shows that things are possible with good old-fashioned hard work and perseverance and innovation. So yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, even Quideo, which is a similar company, right? Today it is a multi-billion-dollar company in the West.
Yeah.
So,
And Exotel is projected to do 100 million ARR in by FY23, right? Which is an insane number actually, right? So yeah, I mean, I spoke to Aman of Cogno last week, and hopefully, I'll have Shivku, who's the founder of Exotel, as well on the podcast soon enough. Fingers crossed.
right. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about some IPO news. Finally, SEBI has cleared Delhivery's IPO, which they had announced, late last year. The company is growing at a 48.5%, compound annual growth rate for over fiscal 1921, and they have clocked a revenue of close to 3,600 crores in the last fiscal. It has delivered more than 1 billion shipments since its corporation, and volumes have also grown more than 6 times. But if you look at the entire market space, still a lot of work can be done, because today organized players such as Delhivery, they just account for 3.5% of the entire logistics market. Another company that has announced their IPO plans this week is Boat. And with that, they'll become the first D2C brand to, go public. They plan to raise close to 2,000 crores through an IPO, and they'll be filing papers earlier this week. Something which Boat has really done for the country is highly reduced our entire dependency on China for, low cost audio tech, such as earphones or chargers and cable, because otherwise we just have to rely on Chinese companies for these supplies. And Boat today has, one of those handful companies that are profitable, right, and are going public. We saw what Falguni and I did with Nika, Alok Pachpai's Ixigo, and Prashant Pitti's Ease My Trip. These are some of the few tech companies that are, profitable and have gone or are planning to go IPO. But what a story Boat has been, right?
Yeah, amazing story. And I really like the guy, man. The founder, Aman, he appears on Shark Tank, one of my favorite guys. Very, very funny, very entertaining chap. So in FY21, I think they crossed 1,500 crores in revenue, right? Posted a profit of around 78 crores. And they're the first D2C brand to file an IPO, which is a remarkable achievement, right? And having started as a brand that, basically sold charger cables on Amazon and Flipkart and elsewhere, right? To actually, building their own brand of audio tech, and then, now IPOing, or hoping to IPO is a phenomenal achievement, because see, consumer hardware market is a dogfight, right? I mean, fighting for shelf space, etc., is just a nightmare, and there's countless SKUs. And so on, right? So yeah, I mean, to survive and thrive in this market takes a lot of good old-fashioned executional chops, which Boat has demonstrated. So really, all the best to the team, and hopefully the IPO market recovers, right? I mean, it's not sullied post Paytm, and we have a good IPO for Boat. I will certainly be subscribing. Yeah.
And I hope you get the allotment as well. You break the
I
first
knew
from
you'd
last
say that.
year.
I think half my IPOs you only jinxed by saying nonsense like this.
Let's see if that's true or not. Cool. Let's talk about the other fundraisers from the week. Some of the notable ones were, agri-tech platform BigHeart. They raised 100 crore rupees in equity from investors, which was led by JM Financial Private Equity. And this was a Series B fundraise. BigHeart sales agri inputs such as seeds, agrochemicals, and equipments online, and also provides advisory, among others. Wealth management platform Int Money has raised $75 million in the Series D round, and a lot of marquee global investors invested, which include the likes of Steadview Capital, Tiger Global, and Dragoneer Investment Group. Scriptbox, another platform on the trading side, has raised $21 million in its Series D, and this was raised via both debt and equity from Axel Partners and other investors. Republic Capital also led a Series A extension round in Chingari to enhance the platform and integrate, new in-app features, strengthen the backend technology team, as well as boost marketing initiatives for 2022. Rocket Lane, after 7 months of its seed funding round, they raised close to $18 million in the Series A, which was led by Asana Investors, 8VC, and others. Okay, so I think the talk of town has been, Rocket Lane's fundraise. They put out a really kick-ass video on Twitter, which essentially the founders put doing a rap song and highlighting the entire company's, growth journey. Do you get a chance to look at that video yet?
Yeah, I did. I mean, and half a dozen people shared it also. See, the tragedy of being a marketer is that you will get like 400 ideas on a usual day, right? So, but I mean, no complaints really. I mean, send me more ideas. I'd love to learn more from everything around. So yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic video, really, and. Rocket Lane is an interesting business as well, right? Sri Krishnan Ganeshan is the founder, and he is part of the Freshworks mafia itself. They do customer onboarding software. Basically, they support collaboration between different stakeholders and accelerate the time to value for customers itself, right? So yeah, I mean, very good stuff, man. And I think that startups are getting super cool with these announcements, not very stiff and everything. More than a couple of announcements in the year have been like last year have been really nice. Like Atlan, I really liked Atlan's Series A announcement as well. Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Right, so we're almost at the end of this episode, but before we end, Roshan, this week you spoke with Anirudh Singla, who's the founder and CEO of Pepper Content, and with Aman Goyal, who is the co-founder of Cogno.ai, which has now been acquired by Exotel. What were your key takeaways from their conversations?
I think the theme of this week should be called college startups, right? Or college startup founders. I mean, these guys are phenomenal, man. Both of them started started the companies right out of college, both Aman and Anirudh. And if you only heard them talk, I mean, you would not believe that they're 23, 24. It's insane. It's insane how mature they sound, how well thought through, and how deliberate they've been about all of the multitude of choices they've had to make. And what is heartening is, again, see, I mean, so Aman graduated IIT Bombay Computer Science. Anirudh graduated BITS Pilani. And now both of these are like, premier colleges. Both of them could have gotten a job offer and then, started working for someone else. But I mean, they've built this company from college itself, right? And I do see that more people will turn towards it, and that's a very, very positive trend. So Cogno AI is in the conversational AI space, and they work with a bunch of large enterprises. I mean, 15 or 20 of the top banks in the country use them. Very, very interesting conversation with Aman on how he sold into the enterprise, how he built with them, and managed to bootstrap his way into an acquisition by Exotel. Fantastic conversation. And Pepper Content is basically a content marketplace. I would say a managed marketplace right now, and a SaaS company, right? And so they basically have this platform which connects content folks with organizations looking to source all kinds of content, right? And that was an interesting conversation as well, because marketplaces are very hard to run, right? And it was fascinating listening to Anirudh explain some of the dynamics of these marketplaces, right? So yeah, I mean, again, very, very studied, very academic, and very very insightful, I would say. So both these episodes are definitely worth checking out. Do check it out and let me know what you guys think.
Cool. So that brings us to the end of this week's roundup. Folks, thanks a lot for tuning in to the Startup Operators Weekly Roundup. We'll be back again on Sunday with more exciting news. If you're not following us on social media already, do check us out on Twitter and LinkedIn. We are at Operator Startup on Twitter and Startup Operator on LinkedIn. You can also write to us sharing your feedback on the episodes, or what are the things that we can do to improve on the startup operator at gmail.com. And of course, if you want daily news bites delivered straight into your WhatsApp inbox without any fluff, do subscribe to our WhatsApp newsletter. We'll be linking the link in the description for you to check out. And with that, we'll see you again next week. Thanks, Roshan, for taking us to the news.
Thank you.